Hello, Doctor and everyone. It's Olivia here. And today, Lian and me determined to choose how communication shapes culture as our topic and selected this journal article, Communication Style and Cultural Features in High and Low Context Communication Cultures, a case study of Finland, Japan, and India. Lian, please.
Hello, doctor. I'd like to talk about the culture, and there are 3 points about the culture I like to say. According to how culture as a way of life of a people, the sum of their learned behavior patterns, attitudes, and material things. And second, then culture is often subconscious. We became aware of it by exposure to a different culture, that is, members of a certain society internalize the cultural components of that society and act within the limits as set out by what is culturally acceptable. And the third, in addition, whole theory aims to explain cultural differences through different dimensions. Special emphasis is placed on the 2 dimensions of individualism and collectivism. This dimension is defined by Hofstede as the degree to which individuals are integrated into groups. On the individualist side, societies in which the ties between individuals are loose. On the collectivist side, he says that societies in which people from birth onwards are integrated into strong, cohesive in groups, often extended families. Okay, next part is Ollie.
Okay, American cultural anthropologist Edwardian T. Hall pointed out the textual nature of culture. For example, high and low context. He argued that anything can be characterized by high, medium, or low context. And high context objects have the characteristic of pre-programmed messages that are in the hands and background of the recipient, with only a small part of the message being delivered. And the opposite is true for low contextual matters, where a large portion of the message must be in the transmitted message to fill in the missing parts of the context, like internal and external context. The semantic loading a linguistic context is not primarily linguistic, but rather non-linguistic and contextual. Semantics are mainly derived from stored non-linguistic and contextual contexts, and information is not embedded in the linguistic transmission. In low language contexts, the main vehicle of meaning is the language itself, while non-linguistic and contextual information has a limited impact on the meaning, which is meaning contained in the language used for communication. Okay?
Okay.
Ian, please.
Okay, thank you, Ollie. Based on previous research, this article examines communication styles and cultural characteristics in Japan, Finland, and India, and compares their similarities and differences. Moreover, the paper also demonstrates the desirability of high and lower context cultures in cross-cultural research. Okay, that's all. Ollie, please.
Okay. Next part is the relationship between communication and culture, and this is what we found. In our opinion, The different communication ways of high context and low context play a vital role in shaping each culture. As mentioned, high context communication is more dependent on context than low context. Based on this point, as is well known, it is diverse about the interpersonal preference between North Americans and Eastern Asians like Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans. We would like to talk about several features of Chinese high context based on our own observations, since we are from China. First of all, Chinese love to show particularity in interpersonal relationship, which is manifestation of special relationship. It means that Chinese are used to taking corresponding communication strategies in the process of communication according to various identities, status, and situations. Secondly, Chinese people adopt in a differentiated attitudes in different interpersonal relationships. We are intimate with our own in-group and are indifferent with out-group. Due to the high context environment, in-group members are connected to ourselves and share the same identity, while out-group members do not have this advantage. Furthermore, on account of the former point, Chinese build new interpersonal relationship by intermediary. The intermediary is a member of a group that interacts with both parties, and no one will reject the intermediary so that new relationships can be established. Lastly, Chinese people pay a lot attention to guanxi, which means interpersonal relationship in English, which lead to be not distinguished what is one's own and what is public. In a high context environment, the interlocutor deal with private relationships during business hours because the other party is familiar to the interlocutor. About what we found about the features of Chinese high context, that is upside to low context. Meanwhile, we also consider that people in high context cultures are used to hiding the real information under the literal meaning of language, while people in low context cultures are used to expressing the information directly. This difference is highly likely to cause the failure of cross-cultural communication. For instance, Chinese people used to greet each other like this. Have you eaten? This greeting is not really about knowing if the other person has eaten or even asking for an answer, but simply expressing a greeting. But sometimes this expression can lead to misunderstandings. For example, if a person from a low context culture hears this greeting, have you eaten? He or she may wonder why the guy is asking me if I have eaten. Is it to invite me to dinner? That's very funny. That's very interesting from me. Okay, Lian, please.
Hey, thank you, Oli. As we all know, language is the most direct and effective tool of interaction between people from all over the world, and it is also a vehicle for cultural transmission. However, due to differences in cultural backgrounds, people may have some misunderstandings in communication, which means cross-cultural conflict. But on the other hand, it seems that these misconceptions and conflicts may also promote us to see the differences in culture. In other words, we can find misunderstandings through communication and thus grasp its culture better. And there also gave two examples to approve this will. And the last part is conclusion. To sum up, the different communication ways of high context and low context play a vital role in shaping each culture. Moreover, meanwhile, people in high context cultures are used to hiding the real information under the literal meaning of language, while people in lower context cultures are used to expressing the information directly. Also, it can be seen that people from different cultures will inevitably clash with each other due to their different ways of thinking and language environment. We should not only observe foreign cultures, but also learn to compare them with our own. So people use communication to discover their own misconceptions and understand the cultural differences between different countries while accepting cultural differences and cultivate a certain degree of cultural adaptability so as to achieve mutual respect and live in harmony. Okay, that's all for me and Ollie. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your attention.